Give me the next 30 minutes, and I will help you bring your whole scattered life into order. I know how that sounds. You have too much to do, and not enough hours, a dozen half-finished things pulling at you, a mind that runs in every direction at once and settles on nothing. And here's a man telling you it can all be brought to order in half an hour. So, let me be honest with you at the outset. I am not going to hand it to you all at once, and I'm not going to pretend this is a trick or a shortcut. There are no shortcuts, and any man who sells you one is picking your pocket. I'm going to walk you into it one law at a time, exactly as I have walked thousands of men into it before you. But I will plant the seed of it right now in the first breath. So, you know I am not wasting your time. The reason your life feels like chaos is not that you have too much to do. It is that you have never focused your forces upon a single point. Your energy is real, and it is far greater than you know. But it is spread so thin across so many directions that it warms everything and burns through nothing. There is a small glass that changes all of this. Stay with me, and before these 30 minutes are through, I will put it in your hand. Part 1. The ship without a rudder. Let me tell you first what is actually wrong, because you have almost certainly misdiagnosed it. And a man cannot cure a sickness he has named incorrectly. You believe your problem is that you are behind, that there is simply too much, that the days are too short, that if you could only find a few more hours or a little more discipline, you would finally climb on top of it all. And so you drive yourself harder. You rise earlier. You steal minutes where you can. You labor with real effort and real good intentions, and still the sense of chaos does not lift. In fact, and you have felt this even if you have never said it aloud, the harder you work, the more scattered you feel. Have you never wondered why? Why the effort does not seem to buy you the order you are paying for with it? A man may work himself to exhaustion and end the day feeling he accomplished nothing that mattered, and go to bed more disordered than when he woke. That is a strange thing when you stop to consider it. Effort is supposed to produce results. Real quick, I just want to speak from the heart for a second. Thank you. I mean it. You showing up here over and over is the reason I get to do what I love. And I never want that to become something I take for granted. Whether life is treating you kindly right now, or you're going through one of the harder chapters, I'm just really glad you're here with me. We found each other for a reason, and I don't say that lightly. By the way, if that free sheet's still sitting there undownloaded, grab it now. I made it because I think it can genuinely help you. No rush. Mostly, I just want to say I'm grateful you're here. Why does yours so often produce only fatigue? I will tell you why. The man who labors without a definite purpose, backed up by a definite plan for its attainment, resembles a ship that has lost its rudder. Do you see the whole of your trouble in that one picture? The ship is not broken. Its engines are sound. Its hull is whole. It carries every ounce of power it needs to cross an ocean, and it goes nowhere. Or worse, it goes in circles, because nothing is steering it. The power is not the problem. The power was never the problem. That is you, laboring hard and feeling like chaos, not because you lack force, but because you lack a rudder. Hard labor and good intentions are simply not sufficient to carry a man through to success. And here is the plainest proof of it, a thing so obvious that men overlook it their whole lives. How can a man ever be certain he has attained success when he has never once established in his own mind the definite object he was reaching toward? He cannot even know whether he is winning or losing because he never named the finish line. He is running a race with no end marked and then wondering why he never feels he has arrived. Let me give you a second picture, and I want you to sit with this one because it describes exactly how most men run their entire lives without ever once noticing. Every well-built house begins in the form of a definite purpose plus a definite plan. A set of blueprints drawn before the first spade breaks ground. Now, imagine a man who decides to build a house by the haphazard method with no plans at all. He simply gathers workmen and materials and begins. What happens? The workmen fall over one another, each with a different notion of how the thing ought to be built. One begins framing a wall where another intended a door. Building material is dumped all over the lot before the foundation is even poured, and half of it warps and spoils before it can be used. Nothing fits because nothing was designed to fit. And the result is chaos, misunderstanding, and a cost so ruinous that the house may never be finished at all. And if it is finished, it stands crooked and weak. You would call such a man a fool for building a house that way. No sane man would attempt it. And yet I say this gently because it is true of a very nearly everyone. And I was once among them. Most people finish their schooling, take up their employment, enter their trade or profession, and live out the whole of their adult lives without the slightest conception of anything that even remotely resembles a definite purpose or a definite plan. Think of what that means. 95 out of every 100 grown men and women are building the house of their life by the haphazard method, workmen falling over one another, materials piled and spoiling, no blueprint anywhere, and then lying awake at night wondering why the house feels like chaos and why it costs them everything they have. It is a modern tragedy, and it is entirely unnecessary because the remedy is neither expensive nor difficult. It is only unknown. So here is my promise, and I mean to keep every word of it in the minutes we have left together. I am going to hand you the rudder for the ship and the blueprint for the house. I'm going to show you the one small instrument that gathers your scattered forces into a single burning point. And your life, the very same life that feels like chaos to you right now, this evening, tonight, will begin to fall into order before we are done. Not because you found more hours, not because you finally summoned some heroic discipline you have always lacked, but because you finally aimed the hours and the force you already possess. Part 2, the burning glass. Why your life feels scattered. Now, let me show you the real machinery of your chaos, because once you have truly seen it, you will never be able to unsee it, and that alone will begin to change how you spend every hour from here forward. Here is the law, stated as plainly as I know how to state it. Until a man selects a definite purpose in life, he dissipates his energies and spreads his thoughts over so many subjects and in so many different directions that they lead not to power, but to indecision and weakness. I want you to read that again in the quiet of your own mind. And I want you to notice those last two words, especially indecision and weakness, because that is the exact feeling you have been calling chaos and blaming on your crowded schedule. It is not caused by having too many tasks on your list. It is caused by having no single point around which to gather them. Scattered force does not feel like force at all. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like being pulled apart. A man with tremendous energy and no aim feels weaker, not stronger, than a man with modest energy fixed upon one thing, because the first man's power is at war with itself, every part of it pulling against every other part. Let me prove this to you with a lesson you can perform with your own two hands using nothing more than a small reading glass. The sun pours its light down upon a wooden plank. It may shine upon that plank steadily, faithfully, for 1,000,000 years and never so much as scorch it. Why? Because the rays are scattered. They are spread across the whole broad surface of the wood, diffused, each ray falling in a different place, and so their power comes to nothing. Now, take up a small glass and focus those very same rays down onto one single definite spot. Within moments, you have seen this yourself. Perhaps as a boy, they burn a hole straight through the plank. Now think hard about what just happened, because the whole secret of an organized life is hidden in it. Nothing changed about the sun. Nothing changed about the amount of light striking the wood. Not one additional ray was added. The only thing that changed is that the scattered rays were gathered onto a single point. And the very same energy that could not warm the plank in 1,000,000 years now burns clean through it in seconds. That glass is a definite purpose. And your scattered life, my friend, is the unfocused sun pouring out real and considerable power and warming everything and burning through nothing. Let me give you one more so that this principle sinks past mere argument and settles into conviction, because a man acts on his convictions and merely nods at his arguments. Take 1,000 electric dry cells batteries and leave them lying about separate and disconnected. Not one of them standing alone could turn a piece of machinery over even a single time. In their scattered state, they are for all practical purposes useless. Now, take those same 1,000 cells and wire them together, Organize them, connect them into one circuit so that the force of each flows into the next, and they will produce power enough to run a good-sized piece of machinery for hours on end. Understand, nothing was added. Not one cell was made stronger. The same cells that were useless lying apart became power itself the moment they were organized together. And here is the truth that ought to lift a genuine weight from your chest as you hear it. The faculties of your mind are exactly those dry cells. Your imagination, your enthusiasm, your persistence, your capacity to reason and to decide scattered across a dozen unrelated aims, they are nearly useless to you. However many of them you happen to possess. Organized around one purpose, wired into a single circuit, those same faculties become power enough to mow down any opposition you will ever meet. So, I want you to set down right now the heavy burden of believing that your problem was ever a shortage of energy or of hours or of willpower. It never was. Your energy has been enormous the entire time you have simply been the unfocused sun and the disconnected battery cells. To organize your life is not to go out and find more force somewhere. You have force enough already. You have always had it. To organize your life is to gather the very force you already possess onto a single point and hold it there until it burns. That is the whole of the secret. And everything I'm going to give you in the next 20 minutes is nothing more than the method by which it is done. Part 3. The first 5 minutes. Fix your definite chief aim. So, let us begin the work itself. And let us begin where every man is tempted not to begin. Not with your calendar, but with your compass. Understand this order and understand why it matters. Because getting it backward is the exact reason most attempts to get organized collapse inside of a single week. Before you organize your days, you must organize your direction. A man who arranges his hours beautifully while he is still uncertain where he is going has done nothing but make his wandering more efficient. He has built himself a very tidy ship with no rudder, and it will sail in very tidy circles. Everything that a man ever creates or acquires begins first in the form of a desire, and that desire takes its very first step from the abstract toward the concrete, from the cloud toward the ground. Only when it is crystallized into a definite written aim, not a vague longing, not a wish you carry loosely in your head where it changes shape 100 times a day. Here's the gap between the people who manifest wealth and the people who only watch videos about it. The wealthy install the idea daily until the mind accepts it as already done. You can't do that from memory. You need it in front of you. That's why I made the free auto-suggestion sheet. 1 page, read it morning and night, and you start reprogramming your self-image around money. It's free at the first link in the description. A definite object chosen on purpose and set down in words upon paper where it must hold still and be looked at. So here is the first act, and it will cost you perhaps 5 minutes, though. I tell you, those 5 minutes are worth more than the 25 that follow them all together. Decide the one major purpose your life shall serve. Not 5 purposes. Not a comfortable list of things you would like someday if it is not too much trouble. One major purpose. Reduce it to writing. State exactly what you intend to accomplish, and state exactly what you intend to give in return for it, because there is no something for nothing anywhere in this world, and the man who forgets that stays poor. Now, do not tell me you have too many aims to possibly choose just one for. I must be plain with you. That very crowd of competing aims jostling in your mind is your chaos. It is not a richness, it is the disease itself. And choosing among them is not a limitation placed upon you. It is the cure you have been seeking. Power comes from organized effort, and the very first step in the direction of all organization is a definite purpose. Every other thing we will build tonight, your plan, your schedule, your daily choices, your every yes and no, needs this one fixed point to be measured against, or it has no standard at all and drifts with your moods. Let me show you a man who did precisely this, and did it under conditions far harder than yours. There was a young man who found that he needed $25,000 to build an educational institution he had conceived. He did not have the sum. He did not have anything close to the collateral required to borrow it through the ordinary channels of a bank. Now, what does the ordinary man do when he finds himself in that position? He bemoans his fate. He tells himself the thing simply cannot be done by a man in his circumstances. He dreams perhaps of some rich relative or some passing good Samaritan who might one day ride to his rescue with the needed capital in hand. This young man did nothing whatsoever of the sort. First, he made the securing of that capital his definite chief aim. He named exactly and in writing the precise thing he intended to have. Second, he laid out a complete plan through which that aim might be transformed into reality. And mark this well, before he took a single step of outward action, more than 6 weeks of constant, persistent study and thought and effort went into the building of that plan for a plan. If it is to be sound, must be constructed of carefully chosen material, the same as a house. That young man, I will tell you now, was myself. And the plan did what a definite aim, backed by a definite plan, will nearly always tend to do in the end. It worked. The capital came. So, spend your first 5 minutes upon the compass, not the clock. Write the aim. And once it is written, watch closely what begins to happen to every smaller decision in your life, because the change is almost immediate. Each decision suddenly has a standard against which it can be judged. Does this task serve the aim, or does it not? Does this hour move me toward the one thing I have named, or does it only scatter me further? That single question, which was flatly impossible to answer 1 hour ago, because there was no aim to measure against, becomes answerable the very moment your aim exists in writing. And I promise you that fully half of your chaos will dissolve on the spot for no reason more complicated than that you can finally tell what belongs in your life and what does not. The man without an aim must weigh every task against every other task in an endless, exhausting tangle. The man with an aim weighs each task against one fixed thing and decides in a moment and moves on. Part 4, the next 15 minutes, build the definite plan. Now that the aim is fixed and written, we come to the very heart of the work, the building of the plan. And this is the part of these 30 minutes that turns your compass into a map. Hear the principle first, because it will guard you against the most common failure of all. A failure I have watched swallow more able men than idleness ever did. A definite purpose without a definite plan is nothing more than a wish, and wishes, however sincere, accomplish precisely nothing. Riches and results do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite plans backed by definite desire, carried out with persistence. Desire must pass through the workshop of the imagination, where the plans for its attainment are created and organized. This is what I have called the crystallization of desire into action, and it is the exact hinge upon which the whole matter turns. Many a man fixes for himself a fine and worthy aim, and then simply waits expecting without ever admitting to himself that the aim itself will somehow draw the result to him out of the air. It will not. It never has. The aim tells you where, the plan tells you how. And without the how, the where is only a distant place you will admire your whole life and never once reach. Let me give you a truth taken from the field of war, for it applies to your ordinary life with a force that will surprise you. It has been well said that all battles are won or lost, not on the firing line after the fighting has already begun, but behind the lines, long before the first shot through the soundness or the fatal lack of it, of the strategy the generals laid down in advance. The battle is decided in the tent over the map and only revealed on the field. And what is true of warfare is every bit as true of business and of very nearly every problem that will confront you throughout the whole course of your life. We win or we lose according to the nature of the plans we build and then carry out. Your chaotic, exhausting days are battles being lost out on the firing line, lost not for want of courage or effort in the moment, but because no strategy was ever drawn behind the lines to begin with. You have been fighting hard and fighting blind. The plan is where the battle is truly won or lost, and you have been skipping straight to the fighting. Now, let me show you what organized effort actually does when a man at last applies it. Because the difference between the two is so great as to seem almost unbelievable until you have seen it with your own eyes. There was a man who sold enrollments for a commercial school, and he was struggling badly. He went from one person to the next all day long, attempting to enroll students one at a time, and more often than not, enrolling none at all. He was not lazy, understand that. He was working hard, working long, and getting nowhere. He was a ship without a rudder, all engine and no direction. So, he was shown the meaning of organized effort, shown that he might enroll 5 or 8 or 10 students with the very same quantity of labor he had been pouring out to enroll a single one. He arranged to give one address before the assembled employees of a department store, an address designed for exactly that purpose. Following it, 8 of them enrolled. The next evening, he spoke before the workers of a laundry. Among them, 2 young women who labored over the washing machines at the very hardest sort of work, and 3 more enrolled. 2 days after that, before the employees of a local bank, 4 more still. 15 students, all told in no more than 6 hours of work, where before that same man had strained and struggled to win a single one and often failed even at that. And now hear the part that ought to stop you cold and hold you there a moment. Every one of those places of employment stood within 15 minutes' walk of the man's own office. The opportunity had been sitting 15 minutes from his door the entire time. It had not moved. It had not hidden. He had simply never once organized his approach in a way that allowed him to see what was standing in plain sight beside him. That is the thing I most want you to carry away from this 4th part. Your opportunities are very likely far nearer than you think, nearer than 15 minutes. And the only reason you cannot see them is that your effort has never been organized enough to bring them into view. So, let me make your 15 minutes of planning entirely concrete, so you are not left with fine words and no hammer. Take your written aim and break it down into its parts, the definite particular steps that must each be accomplished before the aim as a whole can become real. Then put those parts into their proper order, arranged like the links of a chain, so that each single link supports and strengthens the next, and each in turn draws support from all the others. For that is what organized effort truly is, the allying of several interests so that each strengthens all the rest. And then, having your steps in order, budget your hours the way a careful and prudent man budgets his money deliberately, on purpose, assigning your time to the steps that serve the aim, rather than letting it leak away dollar by dollar and hour by hour on whatever happens to shout the loudest at you in the moment. That is the whole of it. That is all that organized effort is. Not more effort, but directed effort. Effort aimed according to a plan. And when your effort is at last directed, you will find, exactly as that struggling salesman found, that the opportunities you have been straining and reaching after for years have been standing quietly near your own door the whole time, waiting for nothing in the world but a man organized enough to turn and see them. Part 5. The last 10 minutes. Set the army in motion. We have come now to the final stretch of our half hour, and everything we have built together depends upon this one last thing, because a man may do every other part of this correctly and still fail entirely at the end. The aim is fixed. The plan is built. Its steps set in order like the links of a chain. And a plan that is built but never set into motion is a corpse beautifully constructed, carefully joined, and completely dead. Quick one. If you want the money attraction law to prove itself to you fast, the 14-day money magnet protocol is designed to attract your first $100 in 2 weeks, or you get every cent back. Zero risk, real evidence. It's the second link in the description. Go grab it right now. It will do you no more good sitting on your desk than the finest ship ever launched will do a man who leaves it tied forever to the dock. For organized effort, in its full and complete meaning, is effort directed according to a plan that was conceived with the aid of imagination, guided by a definite chief aim, and given its momentum by initiative and self-confidence. Notice that final part, with care momentum. The imagination and the aim and the plan together build the machine, but it is initiative and self-confidence that start the machine running. Without them, the finest and most carefully wrought plan a man ever drew in his life simply sits and gathers dust and mocks him quietly every time he passes it. Let me leave you with the one picture I most want you to carry out of these 30 minutes and keep. I want you to think of the faculties of your own mind as an army, and not a small or a weak one, but the most powerful army on the whole earth. Every soldier in its ranks a quality that you already possess. At the very head of that army stands its commanding officer, and his name is definite purpose. Without him at the front, the whole army is useless to you, a mob with no orders. But with him standing at its head, the rest fall at once into their proper rank. Behind him, self-confidence, imagination, initiative, and leadership, enthusiasm, persistence, self-control, the habit of doing more than you are paid for, accurate thought, concentration, every one of them. And this whole army stands at attention, disciplined, equipped, and ready, waiting to do the bidding of any man who will simply step forward and take command of it. That, and I want you to feel the weight of this, is the true tragedy of most human lives, and it is the exact thing you are about to correct in your own. The army was there all along. It always was. It stood ready every single day, but no one ever stepped forward to give it the command, and so it stood idle and at attention, year after year, while its rightful owner walked past it, calling himself powerless and tired and behind. So, here is my charge to you. In this last minute of the 30 I asked you for, the whole method now lies open before you, complete, with nothing held back. The rudder for the ship, the blueprint for the house, the burning glass that gathers your scattered rays onto a single point. The plan that turns your compass into a map, and the command that sets the whole army marching. What remains, the only thing that remains, is for you to take the initiative and give the order. And I must tell you this plainly, because it is the truest thing I will say tonight. Leadership over your own life is something you must invite yourself into. It will never ever thrust itself upon you. No one is coming to organize your life on your behalf. No rescuer, no circumstance, no better season of the year. The army waits upon your word and upon your word alone. Your life was never too full. Hear that and believe it. It was only unfocused. So write the aim tonight before you sleep. Build the plan. Give the order. And then watch. Watch the very same forces that felt like nothing but chaos to you 30 minutes ago gather themselves onto a single point, fall into rank behind their commander, and begin this very night to burn straight through the plank. Before you go, one last word. The shortest and the most important, because it is the one thing that decides whether everything we built tonight lasts past the morning. You now hold the glass. You know how to gather your scattered rays onto a single point and burn straight through the plank. But understand this about a burning glass. The moment your hand wavers, the light scatters again. Hold it steady on the spot, and the wood catches fire. Let it drift even slightly, and the same rays spread harmlessly across the surface and warm nothing. Your definite aim is exactly so. It does not stay fixed on its own. The world will jostle your hand 100 times a day. A new worry, another man's urgency, some shining distraction that has nothing to do with the thing you decided to build. And each time your hand is jostled, the light scatters, and you are the unfocused sun once more. So here is the single daily habit that keeps the fire lit, and it costs you almost nothing. Each morning, before the world reaches you, take out your written aim and read it. Read it aloud if you can. Not to learn it, you will know it by heart within a week, but to steady your hand upon the spot before the jostling begins. And each evening, before you sleep, ask yourself one plain question. Did my hours today serve the aim, or did they scatter? Not to punish yourself. I have no use for a man who spends his strength beating himself over yesterday, but to correct your aim for tomorrow, the way a helmsman corrects his course by small degrees, so the ship never drifts far. Read it in the morning to steady the hand. Weigh the day at night to correct the course. That is the whole of the maintenance, and it is enough. Do not expect that you will hold the glass perfectly. You will not. No man does. There will be days the light scatters badly, days you look up at evening and find you spent yourself on everything except the one thing that mattered. When that happens, do not conclude that the method has failed you, and do not throw the glass away in disgust. That is precisely the drifter's response. One poor day, and he abandons the whole discipline and calls it proof that such things do not work for a man like him. The non-drifter does the opposite. He notes the scattered day, learns the one lesson hidden in it, steadies his hand, and aims again the next morning. The difference between the two men is not that one drifts and the other never does. It is that one drifts and stays there, while the other drifts, catches himself, and returns to the spot. Returning to the spot, that is the entire art. So this is my last charge, and it is a small one, which is why you have no excuse to refuse it. Tomorrow morning, read your aim. Tomorrow night, weigh your day against it. Then do the same the morning after and the night after that, especially on the days you least feel like it, for those are the days the glass most needs a steady hand. Keep the light on the spot. The wood does not catch all at once. It catches because the flame was held there steadily and would not be moved. Guard the glass, and the fire will do the rest. Before we go deeper, understand this. Napoleon Hill said, "No desire turns into money until it's repeatedly impressed on the subconscious mind." That repetition has a name: autosuggestion. I've taken the exact daily script the old masters used and put it on a single page for you, completely free. It's called the autosuggestion sheet. Grab it and follow along for the rest of this video. The link is waiting in the description.